Good evening, and thanks for joining us as we take a closer look at this year's new release from Angel Studios, Cabrini, otherwise known as...
We're going to speak English now. Just kidding.
That was not your line.
No, it wasn't, but it's part of the movie.
Okay.
And it sounded triumphant.
Yes. We'll get to that in just a minute why you said that. And, okay, so it's otherwise known as...
The world is too small for what I intended to do.
Well, like speak English. Okay, so yeah, that's we'll get to that in just a minute. My name is John Newton, science fiction author, and I'm joined by
Eric from Your Brother in Christ.
And we're going to be taking a look at this movie. We did another Christian movie last week or the week before, I forget which, and a little bit of comparison with this one here. I had some trepidation in going for it because the last one was awful. So our expectations on this might have been a little bit low. But before we go on, I want to give a brief word about my latest short story, Cohesion Lost, which was released 2 days ago. And so this rounds out 3 short stories so far, doing pretty well. And I want to thank you guys for your support and efforts on this. Cohesion Lost is asking the big question, what if everything you think you know about yourself is a lie? So what is Cabrini? Cabrini tells the story of Frances Xavier Cabrini, a Catholic nun who became the first Catholic citizen to be canonized as a saint in the Catholic Church. The film explores her journey of faith and determination as she works to help Italian immigrants in the United States, particularly in New York City, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Cabrini highlights her tireless effort in building schools, hospitals, orphanages, as well as her fight against prejudice, injustice, and political corruption. On a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate this movie?
9.5.
Wow. Okay, 9.5. I was actually debating. I would give it a 9. I was debating back and forth. I think it did such a good job for the material that was given. I can't imagine it being any better.
I think pacing was my main hang up. It definitely pacing issues. I don't know how much of that is trying to keep the source material and pacing it's kind of slow, but all in all, that's why I gave it 9.5.
You know, there's a reason why I kind of choked back a little bit on it, and I'll hit it pretty much at the end of this video to see what it was. It wasn't theatrical. It was a little bit on the thematic side, but and it's just my own personal opinion, of course. So I would suggest if you get a chance to see this movie, do. The problem is getting your hands on it, and I can't get my hands on it right now, can I?
No, I don't think you can.
Okay. I was going to bring the example of I got it on DVD. You can get it. It is available through Angel Studios streaming service. It's more of a membership than it is a streaming service. What they want you to do is help out the studios to be able to produce more. And to do that, there is a cost for membership. I would like to be able to do that. I haven't yet. It's just a financial thing. So
I'd recommend it though, because I mean everything out of Angel Studios
so far is good.
I complained.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything that I would complain about either, and I would put this up on that list too. So, give me we're going to do this a little.
They keep throwing us out, and we keep coming back in, and
Okay,
here we go
we're gonna try
once
it
again. Technical difficulties on this one.
John Newton.
That would be great.
Okay, there we are. Okay.
John Newton
Good.
Unplugged. Okay.
Yeah, at least you guys have a good sense of humor. You stuck around, so that's pretty good. Yeah, that was weird. I was just saying that when we tried to come back on previously, said that I think maybe you experienced it once before, or we did together or something.
I've experienced it once before on my own. And I'm thinking that it's actually a StreamYard issue.
Yeah, we're using StreamYard to broadcast. So we had internet connection. That wasn't a problem.
Not an issue.
Looks like just the program itself might be cutting in and out or something like that.
Well, let's get back on topic.
So John John and Eric replugged. We'll go from here. So, in general, what would you say were this, because it's giving
I
you
think
giving
I think you're explaining what Cabrini was, so you might want to start over at the beginning of explaining what Cabrini was, so you can cut straight to that.
We already did that when we did a rating.
Oh, we did?
Yes.
Now we're doing the rating. Okay.
We were. Okay. So what I was asking you though was, you gave it, generally speaking, you're pretty tough on some movies.
Oh yes, normally I am.
And so
I'm very strict on movies.
I was surprised that you gave it a 9.5. So what prompted that? What would you say would be the greatest?
I love the historical setting. I love that they stayed true to that sort of historical setting. I mean, it was gritty. It was downright nasty.
Yeah, it's gritty.
A lot of cases. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can say the beginning intro scene without spoiling anything. You start off and man, it's a kid trying to get help for his mom.
Yeah.
And she dies.
Yeah.
And I know again that's like, oh no, you're spoiling. Well, no, that's like in the first couple of minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And it was rough, it was hard, it was gritty. It showed some of the harshness that Italians had to go through coming over here. And I mean, it went through a lot of different racial groups coming over here. And it's not all about the color of the skin.
No.
People are not the nicest to each other.
Yeah. So there was some of that. Now, I think, from I think we can sometimes, as Christians, especially conservative Christians, be a little reactionary when it comes to accusations of hardships against immigrants and so forth, and wanting to help the poor. Now, we're as conservative Christians, there definitely are charities out there that we're a part of in helping the poor as we can. There's a real tension and struggle that I'm going to get to later in the show here to talk about. Where do you necessarily find that balance? But I think it is important for us to be challenged by this, to say, where is our place?
Where are we? What's the legacy? What's going on? What's being left behind?
So before we go too much further, I want to do a poll to show, as long as we don't get cut off, I wanted to show a poll to see how many heard about the movie. So I put this poll out just a couple of days ago. So we haven't got a whole lot of responses, but we have gotten some. And basically we're saying how many have heard about the movie Cabrini, and if you have, what was your intentions with it? So we've got about a 50-50 split, more or less. There's some that are in there that are outliers, but
man, that's pretty bad though for people that have actually watched it.
What to say? What? 3%?
They've heard about it, and I saw it. 3%.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah. So
I mean, they have a section that wants to go watch it, but haven't yet.
Right.
And this has already gone through the movies, the theater, right?
Yes, it has. So about 50% have not heard about it. 50% say, yeah, they like to see it, more or less, 45. And then you have some that say, listen, I don't even want to see it. I've heard about it, but I don't want to see it. But that's not a very large percentage. You still have some that do want to see it, but haven't. So that's why I said at the beginning, you can get it on DVD. I got through Amazon. You can get it probably through Angel Studios as well. It's probably better going through them than Amazon. And then you could also, you can't stream it through any regular streaming services. You have to go through Angel Studios. And I think it's a bottleneck for that, for people that would say, hey, I'd like to watch this, but how do I get to see it?
Yeah.
So it is, if you want to bite the bullet and become a member of Angel Studios, a partner or participant in it, then you have access to it directly. That's why it's difficult to get these, because not all theaters are showing this. I was chatting with somebody earlier today, and she said that she had to go in 2.5 hours away to be able to see it.
2.5 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So when these movies come out, I want to be able to support the good ones, as much as we can. And so this would be on that list. So should Christians always give Christian movies, a 100% score, a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10? Everything like that. Now, we talked about this last couple of times, but I think it's worth reiterating. Took another poll, and unlike the last one that we just took, where you see there was some variations in there, this was completely unanimously. I've never seen this happen before in one of our polls, to say that no, we should not rig the system, so to speak, give extra credit just for it being a Christian film. We're not talking any kind of socialism here. This isn't equity, bumping it up because the poor little Christian films aren't getting their share. No, we're going to judge them fairly across the board. Absolutely. And so that's why we, when I did the film, the comparison last week for Firing Squad, or the week before, it got very low rating, where Cabrini here got very high. I gave Firing Squad a 3. I thought it was awful in directing and in acting, in set design, in every possible way. Writing, it was an embarrassment. Cabrini is a total opposite. I'd say it's a work of art with some of the framing and things that they did for that. So because this is, I'm not even going to do a spoiler alert on this. Usually we divide this up between spoiler-free and spoiler-filled part afterwards. I'm not going to do that with this. I don't think there's really any way that we can ruin the story. The story itself, the movie itself, is an experience. She's an historical figure. If you haven't heard about her, I didn't hear about her before the film came out. I'm not going to ruin anything by telling you what happened in there. We're not going to focus so much on that, but I think a little bit more on the themes behind this movie. So we're going to dive straight into the theatrical review. If you really, really 100% do not want to have anything that might even smell like a spoiler, don't watch us. Go watch a movie and then come back and enjoy this. So
this woman did live over 100 years ago.
When did she die?
She died 1917, 1 year before the end of World War I.
Okay.
I'll look that up. I was curious.
Okay.
Find out. Now, she dies. Just to let you know.
Yeah, but
she's not still alive.
Well, that'd be pretty amazing if she was.
She'd be over 120 or 130.
Yeah, that would be quite.
She'd be 160, I think.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the theatrical review. The writing of Cabrini successfully blends historical accuracy with the exploration of Mother Cabrini's deep faith and dedication to serving the immigrants. Now, the directing on this film, I would say, is top-notch. The director, Alejandro Monteverde, is masterful in his balance between historical authenticity and the emotional resonance of the film itself.
Including the resonance of his name.
Yes. Monteverde is known for his previous work of films like Bella and Sound of Freedom. He was the director behind that. So if you like that one, you might check this one out. He brings a delicate touch to the storytelling, ensuring the film's religious themes are portrayed with sincerity rather than heavy-handedness. The pacing is deliberate, allowing the audience to fully engage with Cabrini's challenges and triumphs. Now, the writing, he was also involved in the screenplay. He wrote it with Rod Barr, and they successfully weaved together the historical and spiritual elements of Cabrini's life into a cohesive and compelling narrative. The dialogue is well crafted, with conversations that feel authentic to the period, yes, accessible to modern audiences. Did you see the one thing that stood out to me is when she first approaches the Pope, and I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, good luck, sister. Literally, you're not going to be able to talk to him. Well, she is known for being persistent. I don't know if I could be married to her, but she did get the audience with the Pope, and the dialogue there with the Pope was I was sitting on. I was wanting to hear every word. I was wanting to capture this. And speaking of every word, they start off in Italian with the subtitles, and then they have this one part. Did you want to talk about this one part?
Yes, the one part that she finally with the Pope convinced her to go to New York. She decides to go to New York. She goes to all the sisters, and she proudly declares in almost sort of like a hero stance that we are going to go to New York.
We are in America.
We are going to, from now on, we speak English. And I was like, yay, I can do something else while this movie plays beside me, and I watch it that way. Because like doing two things at the same time.
And what were you doing?
Other stuff.
You don't want to say it because it wasn't math.
I'm writing a script, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. I bet you're doing something else.
A couple of things at the same time.
Okay. But you couldn't because
it was a lie. They do not stay with English after that point, the entire film. In fact, I'd say it's probably like a 60-40 split between the two. Speaking
English and then speaking Italian. Now, the other thing about this too, and this had to do with the acting in here, is most of the actors are Italian, as far as I can tell. And they were speaking, and I looked at some of the background on these actors, and sure enough, they are natural born Italians. So Italian is their first language. So when they're speaking Italian in the movie, it's not like, okay, I'm English, I have to, I've spoken with a heavy accent. I don't know Italian. I couldn't really tell if there was a heavy accent there or not, but I doubt it with them being from Italy. And I think she was from Lombardy.
Now, that would be my biggest issue with this movie.
What's that?
That was it.
That
they didn't speak English after they proudly declared they were going to speak English from now on.
So you gave it knocked off half a point because...
Half a point.
Okay. All right. So it would have been a 10 had they followed through with what she said.
And they got the
she was speaking to the other nuns at the time. She wasn't speaking to...
I know, but they set it up. The director sets it up as this is a proclamation, is a dramatic scene, and boom.
Yeah.
Means nothing at all.
So the acting that they had in here, this is Cabrini, played by Castiana del Anna. And I'm not going to try to pronounce all the names here, but I wanted to give you a little bit of the taste of it here. The acting in Cabrini is a highlight. They even had John Lithgow and and I think there's another. Oh, there you go. David Morse, who is another, you might recognize his face. But the cast was delivering performances that are both heartfelt and nuanced. The actress who played Mother Cabrini, who you just saw, brings a sense of quiet strength and grace to the role, capturing the saint's determination and deep compassion. I'm using the Catholic term saint, not the biblical term saint. I'm not going to get stressed out about Catholic theology on this because we're focusing on what she did. I think that's the main thing, the role that she played. So the actress, she played really well the saint's determination and deep compassion. You really comes through in this. The supporting cast, including those portraying the immigrants, the church officials, and the others, provide strong performance that help to flesh out the world Cabrini operates. And like you said, there's that last actress you showed that she was, let me bring her up, Victoria. She played the prostitute in there, and really, really well done. Together with these elements, bring the story to life, highlighting the impact of faith in the service in compelling and emotional, resonant way. I mean, the whole thing wrapped together was put together. Now, I will say that with these performances and the directing that was done there, you see it was almost picturesque. I would almost say that some of these were like Italian paintings, or they just had the stills for these shots. And there was a lot of shots where they were low, and I was thinking, well, this is like an orphan would see it because she's going to the orphans. Mm-hmm. And this is the picture. This is how the orphan would see it and things. So, and it was gritty, like you said.
Gritty. Right? I mean, when they describe at one point in the show that the children, the rats live better than the children do. I mean, that would be an apt description of what's going on there. I do need to mention that even though this is a Christian film, they definitely didn't pull their punches when it came to any of the negative sides of the church itself, whenever it didn't necessarily follow through with the calling upon it. They didn't shy away from that.
No, they didn't. I think they had a good balance there too. So all these things come together, and I think that's what really makes it a compelling story. Now, is this based on a true story? The answer is definitely yes. Now, just like we saw with the Firing Squad, we'll ask the same question here. I'll put this back up real quick. Is this based on a true story, and how close is it to that true story? From what I can tell, it's just about as accurate as you can get with the theatrical presentation. There's always some things that you need to fill in the blanks. There's some nuances that you have to maybe emphasize some things and de-emphasize others to make it a compelling, theatrical story, something that you go in to see a movie about that you want to do. Because otherwise, it'd be boring if they sit there the whole time. So you have to do some things with it. Now you were saying that the actress who played, she had lived a long time. The actual
you're talking about the actual
Frances
character.
Cabrini.
Yeah, she lived much longer than they expect. She did have as shown in the show, there was she had a medical condition from a close drowning call when she was a kid that basically doomed her, and she thought, I'm going to live for a short period, and she ends up living into her 60s.
Yeah.
So she defied all odds, but while she's doing that, I think if memory serves, she started over 67 orphanages and hospitals worldwide.
Yeah. So quite an impact.
Quite an impact.
And so
wow.
that is an inspiration. So whether you're Catholic or not, that'd be an inspiration for all Christians, I believe. So there's that was the real person. This is the actress, although you don't see her in the habit here.
I'd say once they get her all in all dressed up, she looks pretty close.
There you go.
That's very good casting.
I had to describe to my daughter and explain to her that the habit is what they wear. It's not like the things that they do. No, it's something that the nuns wear. Now, I was raised Catholic. My mother was actually in the convent, not as a nun. She was a novice. She was about to make her vows. And the last minute, she was really struggling with whether she was going to go through it or not, because I'm making a commitment. She'd rather have a family. And so she said no, she couldn't because of that. And she backed out. And I'm eternally grateful for that. But there is some of that background. I am not Catholic now, but there was some of that background in my family. So the thematic review. Now, this is the best part of our review, and we save it for last. And we ask, are there any Christian themes in this movie that we can use to deliver a message of hope and instruction to the dying world? I think we're done now. Because that is the movie.
That is the movie.
That is the whole thing.
I'd say a couple things I'd pull in would be perseverance. Definitely when you have a calling on your heart, even when the church is getting in your way and not doing its job, and you know what the Lord is calling you to do, keep persevering. That doesn't mean go off the rails, but that this is a calling from God. It's in line with Scripture. It lines up perfectly to what God says to do. Keep going.
That is the hard thing, because there's a lot of people out there that have, I won't say a lot, but there are some people out there that have gone off the rails, like you said, believing they were doing the right thing, whether it's because they believe that God was telling them or not. I'm not even talking about just Christians, but people in general believing they're doing the right thing and then go off that. I think that she is starting from a good standpoint. If you're obeying Scripture, you're going along a good line. You're heading the right direction, especially if it's point of helping the poor and so forth. That would be a good way to go. But she had the church telling her, don't do this.
Well, she had the archbishop who was definitely against her. She had the Pope, even the Pope originally, but she didn't impress the Pope and showed her conviction, and eventually got like, okay, you can go do this, but under certain conditions. And then eventually, even when she came back and had to redo the entire thing, the Pope said, you know what, I'll still do it if you can show me it's possible. If you can prove to me it's possible, I'll back you. And I'll override the bishop's decree.
Okay.
19. So
I'm looking at the chat here.
World War I ended.
Jack's having a good time. So I'm going to put he's got some great comments here. So I'm going to put some of them up. He's got, okay. So he mentioned this very hard. Too many Marys, levels of persistence.
Yes.
I would say so, but not as vocal.
I don't know. She's pretty vocal in the movie.
Well, she is in the movie, but she'll let you get a word.
I
in
could see Mary doing that.
I could see if this was a passion that Mary had, I could see her going along this line. Definitely. And
yeah, now I need to contact her, send her an email, say, I didn't know you were in a movie.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Okay, so that would be your primary theme. Is that correct?
I'd say that would
persistence,
be my primary.
Heading for the prize.
When you know that, when you have the conviction, it lines up with Scripture. You know what the calling of God is according to the Scripture. Make sure it's in line with that. Go and pursue.
Okay, I counted maybe about 9 different themes that you could have gotten out of here, but I'm going to have the combination of 2 of them and put that up as mine, and that is faith in action, sort of like what you're doing with the persistence, but it's faith in action, and trust in God's provision. So those 2 combinations, I believe, the combination of those 2 things, those 2 themes, set Cabrini apart from any other movies and even Christian movies, while the themes of redemption and good versus evil is common in a lot of other movies, this one really shows how persistence and trust in God pay off. I would use this as a prime example for that. Cabrini uniquely focuses on how trust and obedience to God leads to tangible, transformative actions, not only for yourself, but for society, for the world that we're living in. And Cabrini's work is not about grand supernatural events or abstract spiritual battles. Not that that's bad. We all struggle. There's always spiritual battles that we have in the unseen realm. But I'm talking about physically here in the world that we have. This is what addressing these practical real-world needs through unwavering faith does in this movie. Her accomplishments in building schools, hospitals, and orphanages, despite overwhelming odds, were fueled by a deep trust in God's providence, believing that He would provide the means for her mission, no matter how difficult the circumstances. She opens up, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler to say this, but the movie opens up right off the bat by saying, she goes to the Pope and says she wants to start an orphanage in China. And the Pope puts on the brakes about it a little bit, and she's getting very disappointed about it. He says, how about if you start in America? And then you can go from there. And let's just say that it works out. I did too many spoilers on that, but it does work out. And this act of trust in God's guidance through challenging everyday circumstances, paired with her tireless efforts to serve immigrants and the outcasts, gives Cabrini, the movie Cabrini, a distinctive flavor. The movie doesn't just highlight faith. It shows faith in God making a concrete difference in the world, particularly in the lives of the poor and the oppressed. So taking a look at the comments again real quick, I see Thomas says, it reminds me of one of my heroes in the faith, George Mueller, who created orphanages in 19th century England, deserves his own movie. Yeah. And
about the same time period, maybe a little after her.
Yeah. I think so. I think maybe sometimes we get away from that a little bit, and we focus too much on the transforming power of God in our own personal lives, which is necessary. That needs to be there. The sanctification of the Holy Spirit needs to be a part of our lives. But then taking that and doing something with it. We're not supposed, there's 2 main bodies of water within the traditional land of Israel. And one is the Sea of Galilee and the other is the Dead Sea. The Sea of Galilee has water flowing out. The Dead Sea just takes it in and just dries up. And we need to be the sea that has stuff going out. We need to be the living sea that does it. He also said, can we discuss Angel Studios in general? Might be a topic for its own show.
Yes, I'd recommend maybe in a couple more movies come out, like a top 10 Angel Studios or something like that. Top 10 movies.
I don't know how many movies they've done, because we did the Shift.
Well,
right?
It would be a collection that we would just go over. Like, these are the movies you need to see.
Yeah.
From Angel Studios, and these are their ratings from lowest to highest.
Okay.
I think that would be very interesting.
It'd be hard to do too, I think, because they hit things from different angles sometimes. Like the shift in this movie are totally different, you know.
That could be part of the conversation.
Yeah. And then just in general, I guess maybe is what you're talking about here with Angel Studios. I like to see this. There's other studios out, the Christian studios out there that are doing a good job too. And even other places like maybe conservative studios like Daily Wire, putting out some good material. I'm not saying everything they do is good, but it would be good to do a review on that and to say that we need to be challenged as Christians to put out quality material. That's what I say. Even if you're going to rate my short stories, don't rate it just because I like this guy, I want to make it good. You know, don't do that. It has to be on the merits of the story itself, just like we would do for these movies as well. So, Boxer Uprising, 1899 to 1901, would have been difficult for her if she had reached China.
Yeah.
Man knows his history. And then he said a lot of missionaries were killed, both missionaries and locals. Yeah, there was a big movement.
That would have been the time period she would have been there.
That's true.
When she wanted to go, would have been prior to that, and then she would have been sent out.
If she was still there during that time, that could have, she may have died during that.
Well, how old was she supposed to be in the movie? Because
I don't know.
If she would have been, when she died, would have been 20 years after that. So she would have been in her 40s.
50s, maybe?
No, she would have been in her 40s during that time period.
Okay.
So
yeah. So there's something else I want to highlight here too, besides just the theme of both the dual theme of faith in action and trust in God's provision. There's something else I want to highlight, and that is the positive influence of Christians in the world. I think Christians are becoming increasingly under attack, and there's like a revisionist history going on right now to rewrite to say Christians are evil, they're bad, they caused a lot of problems in the world, they're causing a lot of problems now. That ideology, that religion needs to be eradicated. We need to get rid of it. And so I don't think we're really seeing the real persecution with that coming yet. I think there's potential for that growing later. So I think it's good for us to highlight the positive things that Christians have done in the world. And what would you say are the positive things that Christianity has had an impact, not just in the Western world, but in the world in general, other cultures?
A long list. Hospitals. We'll start with that in general.
Yeah, the word
orphanages.
Hospital, the word hospital itself was the hospitalers. It's a Christian.
It's Christian organization. Actually, Christian knighthood. There are knights that end up turning into what we consider hospitals now. Of course, orphanages. You've had the scientific revolution. There are so many, as well as the abolition of slavery.
Yep.
Led primarily by Christians.
We've got universities.
Universities. Most of those are founded on were monasteries who converted over eventually to universities. So yeah, that's because the monks were studying, and that's where he went to study. That's where he went to learn how to read. It being more literate is something that Christianity pushed quite hard.
If you look at the founding of the Ivy League universities here in the U.S., Yale, Harvard, and others, look at their charter, the original charter. Jesus was the focus, Jesus Christ, and to prepare, I think mostly young men to have an impact on the world. It's like it started out like that, and then just you see where a lot of these institutions
like
are
Oxford. Oxford's a monastery originally.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is all grounded in Christian. I mean, even America itself would not have existed without Christianity, because the inalienable human rights given to us by God would not have existed without Christian Judeo beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, you can look at now. There were some secular unbelievers that were involved in that process as well, but by and large, the whole concept of human rights and the rights of individuals,
not the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It was, if memory serves, it was 56 signatures. I think 54 of them were Christians, and 2 of them were deists.
Yeah,
I
don't know what the numbers are, so I can't. I know that Thomas Paine was not a Christian. He wrote, this famous paper that he wrote. But there's another comment here by Jack Ray. He said, the Great Awakening was the founding movement that led to the American Revolution versus not having that and getting the French Revolution. Yeah, you see what happened with the French Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
And how that kind of ended. And then
Napoleon.
Our founding was drawn from biblical principles drawn from Old Testament as well. Yes, you can. And there are some famous quotes by founding fathers. I believe we need to do an entire live stream just on that itself. I think it's worthy. So I know there's some more comments going here, but I'm going to pop this up. This is a list of the impact that Christianity has had over the 2,000 years on Western culture in particular, but also around the world as these missionaries have gone out and established these orphanages and other things, so forth. Education, healthcare, justice, and human rights. We say healthcare, we're talking about hospitals and things like that. Charitable work in general, arts and culture. Just look at the arts that have come out of the Renaissance, even the Middle Ages. Moral and ethical foundations, science and innovation. You can do just a list on all the scientists, cutting edge scientists of their day in the Enlightenment period and so forth that were Christians. Science and innovation, peacemaking and reconciliation, advocacy for the outcast, and you can even add many, many other things to that list.
I could have some fun with that, just going through the Islamic aspect of it.
If
Christianity was replaced by Islam, you would not get not a single thing on that list.
Well, you can compare. Yes, I think it's worthwhile to do a comparison, comparative study, right?
Pull it up.
So we're going to leave that into a more expanded live stream in the future when we really dig into
that's
the
our
impact.
Next live stream.
Yeah,
just like a hint to it.
Yeah, there is
a little flavoring.
There is that coming up. This is okay. So now moving along. I did want to put a little bit of balance to this story, and that is, and it's not really a theme, but it's worth restating. Not all immigrants are good. The thing of this, I think this is part of the balance that with the fight that we're coming into right now, is to say, listen, we do want to extend a hand for the people that really want to join us and be a part of the community and be beneficial to what's happening. They get better lives from themselves. We'll help you get there. You're contributing. This is a give and take situation, and now you can build part of the society. All my grandparents were immigrants. So
you mean the people that want to actually immigrate?
Well, yes, immigrant do well. Now, this is one big thing that was different. I don't want to get too much into politics, but one big thing that was different from that era versus this era is we are now more of a welfare state than what we were previously. Meaning that instead of the church giving a helping hand to individuals as they come in and be able to monitor these individuals and say whether people are taking advantage of the system or not, now the state is doing it itself and maybe not doing as good a job of monitoring these individuals. You have people that want to take advantage of the system and come here and do that. Now, there have been in really recent, I'm just going to bring up a couple of articles of things that have happened. Colorado town being overrun by Venezuelan gangs. And then news report, I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but this is just today. Alleged 911 calls report 32 armed Venezuelan street gang members invading Chicago apartment complex. So what happened in Colorado is happening here in Chicago. So I also grew up my parents were divorced and I lived in Los Angeles, and it was government subsidized housing. We had a lot of immigrants. A lot of my friends were immigrants at the time, but there was also a very dark edge to, I'm not saying that particular culture, but that area in Los Angeles I was in, there was murders in the apartments next to us. They had to put razor wire up between our apartment complex and the one that was next to us. Story maybe I'll get into sometime. not a very good situation. So in the past, when you came to the U.S., it was a sink or swim, and you had to be good. You had to be able to provide. You had to be able to give something back to society to be able to get something out. Now, in this movie, they're showing how people are being oppressed just because they're Italian and so forth, and that did happen, and it's still happening today. But by and large, we've got to be very careful. Not all immigrants are good. And so I'm going to take...
Look at England over the last couple of weeks.
Oh.
It's not working out so well.
Okay, so...
That's part of the whole immigration actually becoming part of the culture.
Right.
Not trying to override the culture with a separate one.
That's what you want to do. You want to be able to make sure that that the people coming in will integrate into our society and benefit it as well. You're not going to just have an open door to everybody, and you also have to make sure that that it's a trickle coming in so people can be assimilated and you're not just overwhelmed, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the Bible this is even shown in the Bible. Although all ethnicities and nationalities will be represented before the throne of God. Now we have Revelation, which states this. In Revelation, it says, "After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands." So we have every nationality, ethnicity, but the difference here is everyone there before the throne has surrendered to the King of Kings. They have bowed their knee, they've submitted to him, and those bad things that we come with, every culture has bad stuff in it. We've forsaken that, and we're turning towards the cross. So God's instructions even to Israel was, you're going to this land, don't just take in whatever that culture has. And that was in Deuteronomy. It says, "You shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their sons, or taking their daughters to your sons, for they would turn away your sons from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord would be kindled against you, and he would destroy you." So this is talking about lack of assimilation. In fact, it would be too much that their culture would influence you in a bad way to do this. We have to make sure that there is national sovereignty, and we do have this maintain the culture. Now, there's bad stuff about the culture we need to get rid of.
One of the root points of that, though, is again that they would bring you away to follow other gods.
Right.
That's where I really find the root being. It's not, well, these people have a different skin, therefore, if you don't want them in. No, actually, their skin color would have been the same. So it's not a race thing. It is, hey, don't intermarry because of this issue here, where you will have them coming down. If they came into Israel and said, okay, we're going to follow Yahweh, we're going to submit, we're going to become part of this culture, that would have been a different situation than what was being talked about here. Now, we do have an example of someone pretty famous in the Bible who did that. And the outcome was as predicted.
And who was that?
Solomon.
Okay, so he married how many wives and concubines? Over 600. So there was really a downturn to what happened to him.
And he started following other gods, and that's not saying that concubines are a good thing. That's not God signing off on it. In fact, he is condemned for it, saying that these were bad acts. He violated the laws. He violated God's plan by doing this stuff.
So here's the other part too, is that God does, if you submit to him and accept his culture and accept his ways and everything, then it's an open door for you. And the example would be Ruth, who was the grandmother of King David. She was from Moabite, who was an adjacent nation to Israel at the time, and the door was open to her. In fact, the phrase that she does when she follows Naomi, her mother-in-law, back to Israel, says, your people will be my people, your God will be my God, is a verse that is often quoted during marriage ceremonies, because they're saying, like, I'm with you, I'm going to be one of you. And because of that, she was accepted in as part of the kingdom of God. So there are other verses in the Old Testament that talk about this: Exodus, Joshua, and Nehemiah, and Leviticus. And so there's not just those particular verses that are saying don't intermingle. And again, it's not because skin color or those evil people. They're evil because of the acts that are done, because of the culture that is part of what they do. But if they leave that behind, that those people as individuals would be welcomed. And we see that again in what happens in Revelation. So this is not just an Old Testament law. We see the same thing in the New Testament, that although the fold has opened up to the Gentiles, there's a caution to be separated from the world. We see that in Romans. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Romans 12, verse 2. And in John 15, 18 through 19, it says, if the world hates you, know that it has hated me. This is Jesus himself speaking. It has hated me before it has hated you. You are of the world. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but because I've chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. And then there are several other verses that you can look for. This is not exhaustive at all, but in 2 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, 1 John, James, 1 Peter, and 2 Timothy, all throughout the Bible, it talks about being separate, being holy, being set aside for a purpose. That we're not just to go with the flow, to go with the crowd. There's to be a separation there. And checking okay. So Ray says melting pot, not a flushing out.
Yep.
And Thomas Hall said, I look at it as being positive. All the main reason to be a light and salt if they come to us. Like Islam falling apart now, they are no longer secluded thanks to the internet. So these are, if they're walking away from that, we have open arms to say, hey, there's another place, a better place that you can come to. And then nice chai. Hi, Elena. Nice channel passing by. Welcome. Good to have you. So this is all looking at Cabrini, the movie Cabrini. She shows how she's reaching out to the poor, the downtrodden, the outcast, and providing this for them, especially the kids. The kids don't really have. They're I wouldn't say they're totally innocent, but they're not like. They're helpless, basically, in what they're doing. In fact, they were dying in the streets. What was that one phrase that she was using there? That the rats.
The rats live better than the kids do.
Yeah. 5 points in New York during that time was awful, terrible. We had a guy in our writers group write a short story on that section. It was his short story was good. Yeah, but and I'll put a link to it in the description here. Give him a shout out for Max Willie. So even though there's a necessity for national sovereignty and a nation needs to protect its borders, we're still required to show compassion for the poor and the outcast. When you get down to it, because Jesus bore the cross and took our punishment, the world will never be the same. He has also called each one of us to pick up our crosses and to follow him. And in so doing, we not only become like him and draw closer to the Father, but we also leave the world a better place. Coming up soon, next Thursday, 2 days, Thursday morning, we're going to talk about it's a miracle, the UMA Space Agency. Can you have a space agency like NASA or other national space agencies in an Islamic nation run by Sharia law, going strictly by the Quran and the Hadiths? Could you do that, or would that be a contradiction? We'll answer that question, be an open discussion, and we'll also show why that could or could not be a possibility. And then because of what we did last Sunday night when we introduced Cohesion Loss, the short story, we had our launch party for that. We talked about the Mandela effect. And we're going to be doing this a little bit wider too. And we're going to open this up as a quiz to you guys. You had set this up and it looks like
I set this up. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to have 40 to 50 different Mandela effects situations, and I'm going to have the list ready to go, and I'm going to ask John here what the truth is about it, either option A or option B, or is this true or is this false? And at the same time, I will be asking you guys, the viewers, the same question. We'll give you guys about 30 seconds to answer. We won't be looking at the chat until after John has already given his answer.
Okay.
So you guys won't influence him, but we'll keep tally on who gets it right and wrong. And
we did last time. We did a couple of them. I think we did three altogether, and I totally botched. I was totally wrong. I think I'm all of. Now I could say, if you don't know what the Mandela effect is, no, I spelled it wrong.
Oh no, you did spell it wrong. You spelled it not even the way that people say it.
If you don't know what the Mandela effect is, it is the thing where you show something. It's usually a logo or some other type of thing where we all have had exposure to it. And the first example was Jif. Jif, is it Jiffy or is it Jif? Peanut butter. And a lot of people will say the wrong thing. And it's almost like, wait a minute.
And they remember it that way.
They remember it that way so much, though, they say, wait a minute, they changed that. No, it's been like that. And so we're going to be looking at again. And like you say, we're going to be putting it on as a question. Hopefully that wasn't, I'm not ruining it right here with this, but this is, I think you did mention this guy.
I mentioned that one in the last live stream. Okay. Which one it is.
Yeah. So which one is it? Does the Monopoly guy have a monocle or does he not? And that's an example of one of those. So we're going to go through. This is going to be different. We usually don't do stuff like this, but I think it'll be fun.
Oh, it'll be fun. It'll be a nice, easy live stream. You guys will be able to participate. We'll see how well individuals do. I'll let you know which ones I've fallen for in the past, even though I'll be reading them off.
Okay, so a couple of last comments here. It says, I don't think the Islamic Space Agency would take off. Then he said, this kind of thing can easily be solved by looking it up. Yes, but if you do participate, the goal is do not look these up. Or if you already had exposure for these and you already read through them, we're just going by honor system here. You can't spoil it for anybody else. Okay.
Yep. And even if you watch it afterwards, you can always leave it in the comments down below. Let us know how many you got wrong or right. And we'll roll on through this. I will even put it on as a quiz at the end of the live stream. You know, how many did you guys get right?
Yeah.
What was your number?
Yeah. So thank you for hanging out when we had that glitch and we don't know what happened. Hopefully that won't happen again. But until then, until Thursday morning, when we talk about the UMA Space Agency, have an enjoyable day and we'll see you then.